Hi everyone, it's a pleasure for me to welcome Infamousneo. How are you?
Not bad, sir, you?
I'm fine, thank you for coming in. I get some questions from the French community. They were very happy to ask questions to you. Let's start with the X Invitational. What was the atmosphere of the tournament? Did you enjoy your journey?
Yeah, honestly, I was in a weird state at the Invitational. I was ill, and I kind of had some medicine to take the edge from my symptoms off, and so I was kind of spaced out as well. But that kind of added to it. But yeah, it was electric and emotional, I guess. Even on stage, you could kind of just tell that there was something big going on all the time. If that makes sense, it just felt significant and big. I didn't really get much time other than my games to explore and stuff. I didn't really speak to that many people while I was there, but yeah, you could feel just emotion from the crowd and stuff. Even though I was locked in with my headset on, and I could sort of tell when my matches were the ones being shown, because you could sort of hear a small amount of noise when I was drawing badly coming from the crowd, kind of thing.
Okay, nice. I get a question from Camaremo. Did you know all the players? Some of them are friends or rival?
I mean, I've had experiences with a lot of the players that were there. I haven't necessarily spoken to them one-to-one, each individually, until the Invitational. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I do some work with JJ sometimes on the Two Turns Ahead podcast, and the people from the Dragonborns I always have experience with. Other than playing games in client, though, and people coming into my stream, because I assume there were a couple that hadn't been in my stream until the lead up to the Invitational. Like Matthew started coming into my stream on the lead up, but I meet people in game and in my stream. I tend to know a lot of the people that way.
Okay. I get a question now from Cheden. Why did you choose your deck? What was your thought?
I just liked it, really. I understood it was risky and potentially inconsistent. I didn't expect it to be as brutal as it was on the day, because it really did not like me on the day. I never really felt like I got going with it. There are a couple of games where it went well, but I never really felt like I had a major misplay that affected the game. I definitely misplayed, but the deck never really got going, which was sort of frustrating to me. But it was just a choice based on the fact I like the shard combination. I like playing decks that draw cards, and it was sort of between that and Blood Diamond, and I preferred being on the side of the fence that drew cards rather than didn't. I just feel more comfortable when I'm having a bunch of cards come into my hand.
Yeah, and you were prepared to face a Ruby deck, but there was no Ruby deck. It was maybe a small weakness for your deck.
Slightly, yeah. We thought that maybe one person was going to bring a Ruby deck in, and that was potentially Sirius, and he didn't. So we were super happy about that. When we were choosing what deck to bring, I'm not sure if you would call it foolish or not, but we basically just said we didn't care if there was a Ruby deck there. The chances were small enough that we were happy to accept it.
Okay, I got a question now from Deus and Frizet. What do you think of the shape of the tournament? Day 1 standings didn't carry over. Day 1 existed solely to get from 12 to 8 to make a draft. How did you enjoy the shape of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it was a good start, right? But there's definitely improvements that can be made. I spoke to Corey while I was there, and some other people as well, and they're already planning to make the next one slightly different. It's going to be more or less the same, but there are going to be more players, and the ways in which you can qualify are going to be slightly different. So it worked fine, and it worked well as a viewable and watchable event because there weren't too many things going on at once because the number of players was small. So you could keep track of who was doing well and who wasn't. So in terms of that, it was fine. And in terms of actually playing it, like, there was no confusion or anything. We knew what was going on, and it was pretty straightforward. I gotta say, it's a little bit confusing, that there isn't necessarily a definite progression. Like, there's sometimes tiebreaker matches, and as you saw on the day, there was a tiebreaker match for the last spot into the top 8. I think if there were any improvements to be made, it would just be make it so the amount of people that are playing make it so there are no tiebreaker matches going into day 2.
Okay, nice. And it was a really nice tournament. It's small details. And now I got another question. How do you focus in and between games? Do you have any rituals?
Not really. We ended up I went upstairs because the player area was separate from the downstairs part, and it was upstairs, and the 5 shards guys are up there too. So between games, I went up and talked about the game I just had. We didn't know who we were playing against next, necessarily, other than standing spaced, of course. So we didn't really know what was coming. We just talked about, what went on in that game, if there were any mistakes I made, and what the reserves options were for the players that were potentially coming up.
I got a question about risk and reward. In X, there is risk and reward situation, and players usually go for low risk, low reward to avoid dangerous move. Do you think players are too cautious sometimes?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm all about doing stupidly risky stuff. Taking that deck was one of those things. It went badly, but it could have gone ridiculously well for me. And in one of the invitational qualifiers, granted I'd already qualified, but the second one I played in that I top 8'd as well. At one point I kept a 0 shard hand because if I got a shard, it would have played well. I think that I'm one of the players who tends to lean more towards risk, but then again, when I was in the first invitational qualifier, I was very centered and I thought about everything quite a lot. I think it's all situational, right? If you feel comfortable in the position you're in, then you don't need to take a risk. And if you feel like you might be in trouble, then taking a risk might be the better option. I think it's kind of a definite thing. Like when you're in that position, you'll know if you need to take a risk or not, and that's kind of a part of being like someone who's quite good at the game, is knowing when to do things and when not to do things. And I wouldn't necessarily say players are too cautious. I actually think that players who are learning the game and beginning the game actually tend to be a little bit more risk-taking than those who've been playing it for a while. I wouldn't say necessarily too cautious, but I would certainly like to see people taking more risks because it's more fun that way, right?
Yeah. Okay, nice. I got another question. What do you think of your team or people that helps you for preparing the tournament? Were they helpful? Sorry.
Yeah, they were all super cool. My team is consisting of some of the best players that are around, as well as some of the most helpful people that are around too. Wurtle is part of the team. Jeff Hoogland's now part of the team. That was his deck that I actually ended up running at the Invitational. But yeah, we test, we record our data on a spreadsheet, and even when I wasn't around, people were testing without me there and just putting the data down. And when I got up and when I woke up or when I came back from being out, I could come back and see that testing had been done and there was new data for me to look at, so I could work out sort of where decks were standing against each other. So yeah, it was pretty helpful to have a team in terms of deck selection, at least. I play so much that when it comes to actually playing matchups, it's something that's just pretty much ingrained in me already. Like, to be honest, I had no idea how to play against Sirius's deck. That came out of nowhere, and I hadn't really done any testing against like a spider deck. We played something like it in the past, but we just didn't even think that was coming. But for the most part, I know how to play the game, but having a team really helps when it comes to selecting a deck and knowing what's good against what, because you have your own private pool of data when it comes to what decks are doing well against other decks.
Okay, nice. I got another question. What was your favorite moment in the 2 days of the tournament?
That's a tough one. I was pretty low the entire time. Every time I kept losing matches, it's hard to pick out. I mean, there was nothing amazing that happened to myself, but honestly, having JJ and Coma in the finals and that unfolding the way it did was probably my favorite moment, because I like both of those guys and I'm pretty close with JJ, and just seeing my friends do well honestly was probably the best part of the whole thing for me, with me doing so badly and all.
Okay, it's really kind to you. I get now more general question from our viewers. A question from Overspace. What was your first TCG and your favorite beside X?
My first was Magic the Gathering. I played it when I was really quite young, like 8 to 10 years old. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just was given a box of cards and sort of taught how to play, and I played it with some friends, and then I got rid of those. And the first TCG I played sort of seriously was Yu-Gi-Oh! But as I sort of grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I realized that the competitive scene was pretty bad, and the way they structured sets and forced people to buy cards and ban the old ones, it was kind of a little bit unjust and kind of not fun, in terms of you just got cards banned outright and you couldn't play them anymore. And if you liked playing those cards, then you were a little bit up the river without a paddle kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think honestly, Magic, if I didn't play Magic as much as I did, because after Yu-Gi-Oh! I went on to Magic again and played that for another couple of years. But yeah, Magic's probably my favorite other than Hex, and it was definitely the first I played. It's so much more complicated than the other TCGs that are out there. Like every other TCG, like whether it's Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh!, Cardfight Vanguard, Versus, they're all a much simpler game than Magic, and Magic is really where you can learn to become a good player if you're not playing Hex, obviously.
Okay. A question from Sartrix. Can you tell us more about your in-game nickname?
Okay, yeah, sure. It's just really old, right? I was in my early teens when I got it, but there was a gaming clan that I was a part of at the time called the Infamous Gamers, and pretty much every person in that gaming clan had Infamous in front of their name.
Okay.
And Neo, I was just a little Matrix fanboy. The name, unfortunately, I have to keep, despite the numbers in the name and how kind of silly it is, because everything that I use has that name. So I'm basically stuck with it. I don't mind it though, it's fine.
Yeah, you're used to now. Okay, I get a question from Freezet. What is your favorite card and your favorite deck? Maybe not a competitive card, a fun card, of a card you really like.
My favorite card, probably without a doubt, is Ancestors Chosen. It's the card that showcased really what a digital TCG, not just a digital TCG, but it's also slightly competitive, right? Decks have done well with that card in the deck, and it's really very strong, and it's not something you can do in other TCGs. It's also super fun because there is a little bit of risk involved in, you know, the Angel of Dawn thing. You might get one early, you might get it never.
Yeah.
There's a lot of layers on Ancestors Chosen in terms of its ability to be fun and its ability to be competitive.
Yeah, and you must wait to pick your ancestral spectre, so there is a bit of risk and reward.
Exactly, and I mean you could just get one the next turn though, and just that one will take the game away for you, or you might later on in the game when you're about to lose suddenly get a chain of like 10 specters and get yourself back in the game. Yeah. It's a super good card. What was the other part of the question, sir?
What is your favorite deck? Maybe Mono Sapphire if you like Ancestor.
Maybe Mono Sapphire was the deck that we did well with in the Hex TCG Pro Invitational way back when, but I don't know what my favorite deck is. The thing is, with Hex right now, the metagame is in complete flux all the time, and there's nothing that just remains consistently strong because decks go in and out all the time. That wasn't necessarily the case for the Set 1 format and the Set 2 format, but it's definitely the case at the moment. I think I do like Mono Sapphire, but I like Blood a lot too. I think that overall it's probably Blood Sapphire control.
Okay. Another question. Do you play PvE?
Yes, not all the time and not much, but definitely I've played a lot of it. I've probably seen Uranaz 3 or 4 times. I've played it that much.
And you get what type of deck do you run? You get the OP Dream deck. You get a Rush deck.
Yeah, I actually did like a little series on the official stream about PvE and building cheap decks, and I started off with a Water Elemental deck, and I played that for a long time, and then I hit Uranaz for the first time, and after I hit Uranaz, I think I got 4 Leeching Burrowers from that.
Yeah.
And then I started playing a Leeching Burrow deck, and then I switched to Dwarves and Orcs, and then recently I've been playing the Dream deck, which is going to get nerfed, I think, which is a shame, because that was stupidly overpowered. And in campaign I've been playing Clerics. Clerics with the all Clerics have life drain from the Cleric skill tree. Just insane and overpowered.
Yeah, Nico Sharp made a really nice deck. Didn't know if you saw it, but it was really nice to play Necrotic Clerics. It was really fun.
I think mine's Coatl. I really like the special action you get, and you get 2 of them if you're a Cleric Coatl. You get 2 of the special blessing that changes depending on what month it is.
Yeah, I think it's Blessing of the Zodiac. Something like that.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, nice. And a final question. Do you have any advice for the new player who starts the game?
That's a really tough question too, because there's so much a new player can want to do. Like a new player might come into the game and they want to get into the PvE. A new player might come in and they want to get into Constructed as quickly as possible, or just play Limited and Draft and stuff. And it depends where the new player is coming from. I guess in general, just talk to people, I suppose. If you're completely new, the best thing you can do is try and make some friends, and everyone's willing to be your friend, pretty much. I'm sure there are some people who are a little bit lame and don't want to be, but for the most part, people are going to be as helpful as they can, and either in-game chat on streams or on the forum, just ask what you don't know and ask for help. Don't be ashamed to ask for help, because it'll make you better in the long run. There are plenty of people willing to help, so I think pretty much the best thing you can do is go out there and seek it.
Okay, and maybe watch your stream.
Exactly. I'll definitely help you out.
Okay, thank you, Infamousneo, for taking a bit of your time to answer to this question, and we wish you the best for the future.
Thank you, sir.